Welcome to WebStudy Learning, a virtual learning environment that enables you to manage course sessions with ease, engage students online, and find solutions to your everyday teaching and learning needs. This video will introduce users to key navigation features of the WebStudy Learning timeline from the instructor's view. Experienced WebStudy users will tell you that a key benefit of the WebStudy LMS is the timeline. Beyond the timeline, instructors are able to use WebStudy to quickly design and maintain courses, offer live streaming video and audio, and create a virtual learning hub for students to connect anytime, anywhere. First, let's take a look at the updated timeline, the backbone for your course, in its expanded view. Here we see listed all of our course sessions and other items. To the right, we have the control menu, which allows you to navigate efficiently. If you hover over the session list, you can jump immediately to any session in your course. I pick week number 6, and the timeline will immediately jump there. You'll notice the control menus remain visible. I can then jump back to the introduction or another session in the course. Alternately, I can collapse all sessions in the course and see a high-level overview of the course. This collapsed view can be viewed in two ways: the way you see it here with just the session titles, the visibility switches, and whether or not the session is active, or we can click on the Show Dates option. Show Dates will present the dates that are related to each session. This makes it very easy to scroll down and see the calendar placement of all the sessions. Now let's edit a timeline session. We have the gear icon that has become familiar in other parts of the interface. This replaces the Edit Session button that was at the bottom of an open session. Here there is an area to modify the description, an area to modify activation and visibility information, and finally a tab that will allow you to select the coursework to include in this session. You'll notice that when you're in the Coursework tab, the coursework is broken down into materials, exams, quizzes, surveys, assignments, and forums. The methodology for selecting or deselecting materials is very simple. Just click on any item and the plus sign that is associated with it becomes a minus sign. That adds the item to the session. To deselect it, you just click on it again. Looking at assignments, it is much the same scenario. We have a list of assignments. You can see that this particular one with the highlighted is selected. If I selected another one, it is also included. So now we have two assignments that are included in this session. Forums work exactly the same way. If I click on the Introduce Yourself forum, it is now included. When I'm done with these selections, I hit Submit and it will bring me back to the timeline. By viewing the timeline in a collapse mode, any individual session can be expanded by clicking the plus sign to the left of the session title. Once the session is expanded, there are various shortcuts that allow you to do common things. For instance, items may be removed from this list by clicking the minus sign as you hover over the various items. You can add items by clicking the Add Items button. This will take you to a page that allows you to select additional coursework or remove it, either one. Going back to the timeline, you'll see that you can also update the comments related to each of the items in the timeline just by clicking right on the comment. You can put a comment in, such as, "Please do this assignment," and click OK, and it is preserved. One of the other great features of the newly designed timeline is the ability to reorder items using drag and drop. You'll notice the arrows to the left of the coursework. If I were interested in moving this particular assignment above the one preceding it, I could just take it and move it anywhere I want. You can also reorder the timeline sessions themselves by going to the top of the timeline and clicking on the timeline matrix. This is very familiar, with the exception that we now have drag and drop icons on the left. You can pick up any session you would like and move it to any other location in the timeline. Once you have arranged the sessions as you would like, just click the Submit button and your timeline is now reorganized. The dates in the timeline located right beneath the timeline title include calendar placement, when the timeline session is available, and when the timeline session expires. These dates may be modified in the timeline matrix, but also they can be modified in the timeline just by clicking on a date. A calendar tool will open and you can adjust the date. We've introduced a new feature called Speed Dater, that the amount of work you need to do with replication or moving courses from one semester to another. Once an administrator duplicates a course, it is usually the instructor's responsibility to adjust all dates in the course, previously a tedious task. The speed dater features shifts all dates in the course by a relative number of days calculated as the difference between the base and new activation date. Here's how it works. Select a base date from any date in the course. Click on one of the course work tabs and make your selection by clicking a plus sign next to the desired date. For example, if you choose to select a date from the Timeline tab, you may select the date from the first timeline session as the base date. Enter the activation date, which will be the date that will control the date shifting across the course. All dates in the course will be reset to a date relative to the difference in the base date and the entered activation date. Grading rubrics functionality is also now available for any gradable items in the LMS. Rubrics may be created for a specific course, shared between all courses, or shared at an institutional level for inclusion in any course. Let's begin by creating a rubric. I'll click on the Work to Do tab to access our assignments. I'll edit the assignment, and you'll see we scroll down to the area dealing with grading. We have a new line, Rubric, and in this line there are two buttons, Select Rubric or Create a New Rubric. No rubric has been selected yet. If I click Select Rubric, I'll have a tool that will let me choose what type of rubrics are available, either at the course level, share level, or institution level. I'll click New Rubric and see the control panel for creating the rubric. First, I'm going to name the rubric. I'm going to determine whether it will be a course level or shared rubric. In this, I'll make it a course level 1. Rubrics consist of criteria and ratings for each of the criteria. I'll add the first criteria by clicking the Add Criteria button. If I click on the word Criteria 1, I can now enter my own description of what this rubric will be named. I'll call this criteria Overall Understanding of the Material. Clicking the OK button, the title is saved. The next step is to add ratings to this particular criteria, so I'll add the first one. My intent is to add 3 ratings, Poor, Satisfactory, and Excellent. Each rating will be valued with a different point value. We'll call this rating Poor and assign it a point value of 10 points. The first rating is created. Let's add a second rating, and that rating will be called Satisfactory. Save that by the OK button and give it a point value of 15 points. You'll notice as ratings are added, they are sorted by the point value. I'll finish by adding the third rating, called Excellent, and it will carry a point value of 25 points. So we've created our first criteria. To create the next criteria, just click Add Criteria and follow the same process. You do not have to add the same number of ratings. Each criteria can be totally unique. It can have as many ratings as you think you'll need to properly evaluate the criteria. When you're done with the process of adding criteria and ratings, don't forget to click the Submit button to save your work. At that point, you'll see that a rubric is associated with this particular assignment, and you can edit that rubric, or you can create additional rubrics. Now that our rubric has been created, using it for grading purposes is fairly straightforward. I'm going to go into my timeline, and in session number 1, I'm going to select the assignment which has the associated rubric. You'll see we have one student who has submitted his assignment and it's waiting for grading. You'll see a new button, Rubrics. So we'll use the rubric to award the points to this assignment rather than doing it manually. Opening up the rubric box, we see the 2 criteria we've created, overall understanding of the course and thoroughness of the submission. Let's assign values by clicking on any particular value we'd like. In this case, that's it, and once we submit that, those points will be assigned to the student for this assignment. You'll also notice that there is a manual grading ability to the extreme right. If you decide that after evaluating the student's assignment that you'd like to create a special rating, you can go into this box and click on the manual rating, calling it whatever you would like, assigning it a point value and submitting. So in this case, we're now assigning the student 20 points for criteria 1 and 15 points for criteria 2. Submitting this assignment will then award the 35 points to the student. Lastly, let's look at the new visibility switch. This visibility is also located in the timeline matrix, but to make it a little easier for the instructor to identify which sessions are visible, you can simply click the visibility switches right on the timeline, and it will remember them in the sessions will be classified as visible. And they will be controlled, of course, by the availability date. Thank you for joining me for this overview of the new WebStudy Learning Timeline. Stay tuned as we are continually implementing your suggestions. WebStudy is a user-driven application that is always evolving to meet your changing needs. If your school or department is LMS shopping, contact sales@webstudy.com for more information. If you're a current customer and have further questions, contact support@webstudy.com.